Ezin was only 18 when she left her village to work in the city. Her mother was sick, and the small farm they had could no longer feed the family. A woman from the city told her about a rich madam who needed a house girl. Ezin believed this was her chance to help her mother and younger brothers. When she arrived at Madame Patience's big compound, the house looked like a palace. Ezin felt both happy and afraid. Madame Patience looked at her from head to toe and said, "If you work well, I will take care of you." Ezin nodded quickly, ready to start a new life. The next morning, Ezin woke up before the sun. She swept the compound, washed plates, cleaned the sitting room, and even helped cook breakfast. The house was very big, and the work never seemed to finish. Madame Patience watched her like a hawk. If Ezin missed even a small thing, she would shout loudly. But Ezin kept quiet. She told herself that hard work today would bring a better tomorrow. Weeks passed, and the work became harder. Ezin washed clothes until her hands hurt. She cooked, cleaned, fetched water, and ran errands in the hot sun. Sometimes she was so tired that she wanted to cry. But she remembered her mother in the village and held her tears. She promised herself she would endure everything. Madame Patience was not a kind woman. She rarely said thank you. Instead, she always found something to complain about. One evening, after Ezin had worked all day, Madame Patience shouted because the soup had too much salt. Ezin tried to explain, but Madame refused to listen. That night, Ezin cried quietly on her small mattress. When Ezin first came, Madame Patience promised to pay her salary every month. But after the first month, Madame said business was slow and asked her to wait. The same excuse continued month after month. Madame always said, "Don't worry, your money is safe with me." Ezin believed her because she had no other choice. 3 years passed like that. Ezin grew stronger but also more tired. She worked from morning to night without rest. Even though she had served faithfully, she had not received a single naira of her salary. Still, she hoped that one day Madame Patience would keep her promise. One afternoon, Madame Patience returned home in a bad mood. She accused Ezin of breaking a glass cup. Ezin knew she did not break it, but Madame refused to hear the truth. The argument became loud, and the neighbors could even hear the shouting. Madame Patience suddenly told Ezin to pack her things and leave the house. She said she was tired of keeping a useless girl. Ezin begged her to at least pay the salary she had worked for. But Madame laughed and said, "Which salary? You should even thank me for feeding you." Ezin left the compound with only a small bag. Her heart was heavy. 3 years of hard work had ended like nothing. As she walked down the street, tears filled her eyes. She did not know where to go or what to do next. That night, Ezin slept on the bench of a small bus stop. The city lights were bright, but her future looked dark. Still, she whispered a small prayer. She asked God to show her a new path. The next morning, a food seller noticed her sitting alone. The woman gave Ezin a plate of rice and beans. Ezin was surprised by the kindness of a stranger. It reminded her that not everyone in the city was wicked. While helping the food seller wash plates, a young man named Chinedu came to buy breakfast. He noticed Ezin's tired face. After hearing her story, Chinedu felt pity for her. He told her she was strong and that life would soon change. Chinedu owned a small printing shop nearby. He offered Ezin a small job helping to arrange papers and keep the shop clean. The pay was not much, but Ezin accepted with gratitude. It was the first good news she had heard in a long time. Working at the shop opened Ezin's eyes. She watched how Chinedu handled customers and managed the machines. Soon, she started learning how to use the printer herself. Every day she gained new skills. Chinedu was patient and kind. Unlike Madame Patience, he spoke gently and always encouraged Ezin. He told her that everyone deserves a chance to grow. Those words gave Ezin hope again. One evening, Ezin told Chinedu about her dream. She wanted to start a small business one day and support her family. Chinedu smiled and said dreams can come true with hard work and patience. Months passed, and Ezin became more confident. She handled customers and even fixed small printer problems. People started praising her hardworking spirit. Slowly, life was changing for the better. The more time Chinedu and Ezin spent together, the closer they became. Their friendship grew into something deeper. They laughed together, worked together, and shared their hopes for the future. One evening, Chinedu finally spoke from his heart. He told Ezin he admired her strength and wanted them to build a future together. Ezin was shy but happy. For the first time in years, she felt truly valued. Not long after, Chinedu visited Ezin's village to meet her family. He asked for her hand in marriage. Her mother cried with joy. The man who stood before them looked honest and kind. The wedding was not very big, but it was full of joy. Family members and a few friends gathered in the village church to celebrate Ezin and Chinedu. After the ceremony, people danced and ate happily. Ezin looked at her husband and thanked God for bringing him into her life after all the pain she had passed through. Ezin moved into Chinedu's small but peaceful house in the city. It was not as big as Madame Patience's mansion, but it was filled with love. For the first time in years, Ezin slept without fear. She knew nobody would shout at her in the morning. Chinedu and Ezin worked side by side in the printing shop every day. Business slowly began to grow because customers liked their good service. Ezin also saved small money from her salary. She remembered the dream she once shared with Chinedu. One evening, Ezin told Chinedu she wanted to start a small food business. She loved cooking, and many customers already praised her food. Chinedu supported her idea immediately. He said they would start small and grow step by step. Ezin began selling homemade food near the printing shop. She cooked rice, stew, beans, and fried plantain. At first, only a few people bought from her. But those who tasted the food always came back again. Within months, her small food stand became popular. Workers from nearby shops came every afternoon to eat. Ezin worked hard, waking early to cook and still helping at the printing shop. Every week, Ezin saved part of the money she made. She remembered the suffering she once faced and promised never to waste opportunities again. Chinedu was proud of her discipline and strong heart. After 1 year, Ezin opened a small restaurant. It had a few tables and chairs, but customers loved the food. Her story of hard work started spreading around the area. Not long after, Ezin gave birth to a baby boy. Their home became even more joyful. Chinedu held the baby and said their future was looking brighter every day. Years passed, and the restaurant continued growing. Ezin hired workers to help with cooking and serving food. The girl who once slept at a bus stop had now become a respected businesswoman. While Ezin's life was improving, Madame Patience's life was changing in another direction. Her business started failing because she trusted the wrong partners. Soon Madame Patience began losing money. The shops she owned closed one by one. She blamed everyone except herself. The friends who once surrounded Madame Patience slowly disappeared. When her money reduced, nobody wanted to stay close to her again. She started feeling lonely. Things became worse when she had to sell her big house to pay debts. The proud woman who once shouted at everyone now struggled to survive. Madame Patience moved into a small rented room. Life was no longer comfortable. Sometimes she remembered the many people she had treated badly in the past. One day, she suddenly remembered Ezin, the maid she sent away without pay. For the first time, she felt something close to regret. Life became so hard that Madame Patience sometimes went hungry. She began thinking about people who might help her. One afternoon, she overheard two women talking about a successful restaurant owner named Ezin. The name sounded familiar to her. When she asked more questions, she realized it was the same Ezin who once worked for her. Madam Patience was shocked. Pride held her back at first. She did not want to face someone she had wronged. But hunger and hardship pushed her to swallow her pride. Madam Patience traveled to the area where Ezin's restaurant was located. Her heart beat fast as she approached the place. When she saw the restaurant, she was surprised. The place was busy and beautiful. Many customers sat eating happily. Madam Patience slowly entered the restaurant. Then she saw Ezin standing at the counter. Ezin also saw her and immediately recognized the woman who once hurt her. For a moment, both women were silent. The memories of the past hung heavy in the air. Madam Patience looked ashamed. Finally, Madam Patience spoke. She said life had been very hard and she needed help. She even begged for forgiveness. Ezin remembered the pain she went through years ago. She remembered sleeping outside and crying after losing everything. Before answering, Ezin spoke privately with her husband. Chinedu told her something wise: kindness is stronger than revenge. Ezin returned to Madam Patience calmly. She told her that although the past was painful, she would not repay wickedness with wickedness. Instead of chasing her away, Ezin gave Madam Patience food and some money. The older woman could not believe it. Ezin even offered her a small cleaning job at the restaurant if she truly wanted to start again. Madam Patience broke into tears. Working at the restaurant was not easy for Madam Patience. But for the first time in her life, she learned humility. Her story became an inspiration to many people. Ezin began helping young girls who came to the city looking for work. She made sure none of them suffered the way she once did. People in the community respected her not only for her success but also for her kind heart. Her life became a lesson to many. One evening, Ezin looked around her restaurant filled with happy customers. She remembered the painful road she once walked. Ezin realized something important. Hard work, patience, and kindness can change a person's life. And sometimes, the people who once looked down on you may one day come asking for your help.